This idea what just happened there. The technology was being run on my computer. But what's up, everybody? Welcome back to yet another episode of Go Talk Markets, powered by Podex, fueled by Go Fuel, and presented by the Give Us a Shot Network. Once again, join me on the show. It's been a minute. Martin Soaries of Basketball Society, and today's a very special day because, as promised, women's basketball is here, and there's a lot to talk about. We've got the draft that just happened on Monday. We've got that to talk about. We're going to talk a little bit about March Madness. We're going to talk about the future of women's basketball in general. There's so much happening. All that, so much more. Martin Soaries, Basketball Society, next.
Give them a shot to do what?
No, I don't know. My computer's being stupid. I played twice on accident. I don't know. Martin, it's been a minute though, man. What's up?
Always good to see you, bro. Great to be here. And yeah, I'm excited to talk some women's hoops with you. Always good to be here, though.
It's always good to have you, man. I feel honestly like I have, when it comes to basketball, I think I have the most fun talking basketball with you because like these conversations, they just go everywhere. They go everywhere, and it's amazing. There's so much to talk about, though. We will start with it's never old news, but we'll start with probably the oldest thing on the docket. That is the LSU Tigers, for the first time in school history, won the national title, led by Angel Reese. They took down Iowa, which is led by Caitlin Clark. First of all, an amazing game that was from start to finish. An amazing year for women's basketball in college specifically. I have been on record as saying that I think that the women's game in college specifically is more entertaining for me because it mirrors more what we see with professional sports because of the rules with the draft in the WNBA. Like we see these ladies when they go to these schools, they're there for 3 or 4 years. Usually, right? That's not the case with the men. The men are usually one and done for the most part, a large majority of them. So we don't get to see them develop over the course of their collegiate careers. It's usually 1 year, you lay it all on the line, and then you're going to the next level. For the women, it's much different, and that is the thing that I love the most about it, is that we get to see players like the freshies from South Carolina, who we'll talk about in a bit, like for an entire 4 years, and see just how successful they can be. Women's basketball in college, bro, it's amazing. I love it.
It's crazy. I mean, the women's tournament broke all kinds of records. If you were on Twitter during the women's national championship, or even during the men's, actually it was during the men's national championship.
Yeah.
Most of the commentary I saw out there was, this isn't as exciting as that women's final, right?
Yeah.
The women's final was fine. I mean, I still enjoyed the basketball, but the game wasn't as good, of course, because UConn was just, I mean, they just dominated. They were that much better the whole tournament. Yeah. But the women's tournament, the Final Four, the Natty, it broke all kinds of records. I think you're seeing even the personalities that are coming out, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit. But the personality in women's college basketball is a lot more encouraged and promoted and marketed. And that's where the WNBA is being even more criticized, especially now, and has been criticized in the past. But I think now with the rise of NIL, with social media, with these women's college stars becoming more personalities, more known, the next step is like, okay, they go pro, they go to the WNBA. So they need to be able to carry that momentum over into the pros. And that a lot of that comes down on the WNBA to make that happen. But there are so many things. And of course, all of this stems down to the talent, bro. The talent, girls coming up. I've been trying to warn people for a couple of years now. These girls are different right now, Marcus. I'm telling every week I feel like a new girl where I'm just like, what are you? What am I
Yeah.
watching?
Yeah.
We are seeing the biggest surge of talent in the women's game happen right now, and one by one, we're going to start seeing the Caitlin Clarks of the world. We got this girl Keone McMiller coming up, Hannah Hidalgo. The names
Yeah.
and the talent are going to get crazier and crazier year to year. And I'll just be here saying I told you so.
I told you so. No, you're 100% right. I think, look, again, so like I said, it is so, and you and I have had this conversation a couple times on the show, off the show, like in spurts about how like, a lot of people think this is a drastic thing to say. Like, I don't. I think it's a legitimate truth. Like, you cannot say that you're a fan of basketball and take a shot at women's basketball every chance you get. Like, you just can't. You just can't. Like, there is if you are a fan of basketball, I tell people all the time. I was just talking to someone the other day. Like, I would much rather watch two bad teams in the WNBA than I would rather watch Giannis go beat up on the Rockets on a Tuesday night. I just wouldn't want to see that. I don't want to see Giannis beat up on the Rockets on a Tuesday night, but I would love to see two what you would consider bad teams or struggling to. It's all good basketball. Like, you look at college basketball specifically, again, like you're like the for lack of a better term, the entertainment factor that comes with it, of like the encouragement of the personality. You see Caitlin Clark taunting, you see Angel Reese taunting, like you see all these players. You saw names are failing right now, but the guard from Louisville who just went into the portal, Van Lith. Yeah, like she's getting into it as well. Like, all of this is so you see Caitlin Clark look at her in their game in the Final Four and say, "You're down 15 points, shut up." Like, it's things like that makes the game that much more interesting, but also like the parity, right? Like, the parity across the country right now with all these schools is so vastly different now, because you're not just seeing these girls go to the same 1, 2, 3, or 4 schools to try to make a name for themselves and potentially win a championship, right? Like, you're seeing these girls go to NC State, you're seeing these girls go to Maryland, you're seeing these girls go to Texas and to Oklahoma and to Louisville, and like, so that's what also makes it so much better as well, is like when you look at the men's game, most of the top recruits, they're going to Duke, they're going to UNC, they're going to the big name schools that are big, that are brands, like, the women's game, you've got great players across the country, and that makes each and every game, not just in the regular season, but come March Madness time, makes it that much more interesting and that much more competitive. And there's nothing better than a competitive game of basketball, whether it's men's or women's basketball. It's competition makes my heart grow fonder of basketball.
Yeah.
Anyway, I love it.
Yeah, it is opening up. The parity and diversity is opening up in the women's game. But remember, in the women's game, the really one of the biggest appeals in terms of that competitive nature in the women's game historically over the last couple of decades has been the fact that you've had powerhouse programs.
Yeah.
It wasn't just until a few years ago that UConn wasn't just, look at the record, look at the numbers, bro. UConn has only lost, like, I could probably count on my two hands the amount of games you lost in the last 2 decades. I mean, it's ridiculous. So we all know what UConn women's basketball was in terms of literally dominating the sport for years. I grew up in Jersey. I grew up with two of the best women's basketball players of all time, Tasha Pointer, Cappy Pondexter. They played at Rutgers in the Big East against UConn. So I saw Tasha was a senior when Sue Bird was a senior and Diana Taurasi was a freshman. I was at the rack watching these girls from UConn come in and just do what they wanted and then just leave. I mean, it was a show. It was ridiculous. I'd never seen dominance like that before in person. So the competitive nature of women's basketball, some people said that wasn't a good thing when UConn was dominating, but it still made it competitive because you wanted to see who could take down UConn. But then what happened, right? You had the Stanford came along, Baylor came along, LSU has come along, right? And Kim Mulkey was at Baylor, that, you know, she brought them along. But you've had other programs start to rise up slowly but surely. And now, again, with NIL has started to change everything. The portal has changed everything. Now things are really going to shake up and get spicy. You mentioned Hailey Van Lith. I'm waiting to see where Hailey Van Lith could shake things up wherever she goes.
100%.
People are talking about LSU. I know that. So apparently Baylor was one of the schools that she was down to Baylor and Louisville. And when Kim Mulkey was at Baylor, Kim Mulkey's now at LSU. So there's a connection there. I've heard some people throw South Carolina out there. I don't know where this girl is going. I kind of want to see her go to Iowa and team up with Caitlin Clark. But the fact that we're even talking about this, the fact that it could get this spicy, that's why women's basketball, especially as you mentioned in the college game, is is crazy right now. It's dope. It's everything. It's the basketball, it's the talent, and now it's the storylines and the team ups and the transfers. It's very spicy right now. I love it.
And what makes it better is like the future of so many programs is getting so much better. Like you start with LSU, who has, according to ESPN, has the best recruiting class in the country for this year, and they've added some talents. They added the number 2 player in the league or in the country this year, named Michaela Williams, and she's absolutely amazing. I've seen some of her highlights. She's fantastic. Like she is. We talked a couple months ago about like the difference between being nice and being great. She is nice, like to
Bro,
a whole nother level. I love it so much.
yeah, she's nice, but like, bro, Michaela Williams, I really only watched her for the first time in the McDonald's All-American game,
Yeah.
and I watched some more stuff on her. It's crazy she's going to LSU because she reminds me of Simone Augustus. She
Oh
reminds
yeah.
me of the modern
Oh
day
yeah.
Simone Augustus. The way she shoots that ball with her size,
Yeah.
she's extremely coordinated. She has
She is.
that high shot point on her. She is legit. And for her size, what she's gonna add to that team with Angel still there, with bro,
Yeah.
that's nasty. And they got a couple other girls. Angelica Velez is coming in.
Yep.
Leah Del Rosario, they got another big coming in. So yeah, no, they got girls coming in. Of course, I forgot to mention South Carolina. Now that was the other thing. South Carolina over the last few years became the new top dog. UConn, everybody's coming after them, right? Again, that stuff has been good for women's basketball because they weren't called like super teams per se.
Yeah.
Like we haven't, like, no one really called it that in women's college basketball, but you had powerhouses. You've had powerhouses historically.
Absolutely.
And that's been one of the appeals of the game, is that there's always like a top dog. There's always someone that everybody else is gunning for. South Carolina became that over the last 5 to 10 years.
And you mentioned UConn. UConn has the number 4 recruiting class in the country, and they're bringing in talent, and they're getting Paige back from injury next year. Like they're going to go back to being one of the best teams in the country, like at the cream of the crop in the country, up there with LSU, up there with South Carolina, up there with Stanford. Like that's the crazy thing too. Like I was watching the tournament this year, and I was like, man, like it almost felt like UConn was an afterthought. Like, oh wait, Paige is back next year. They're bringing in Kamori Arnold, they're bringing in Ashlyn Shea, they're bringing in Caden Samuels, they're bringing in Jana El Alfi all the way from Egypt. They're bringing in some depth, like at all positions, and it's all to stretch the floor. All 4 of those ladies I just mentioned are super reliable beyond the arc. Like it's almost unfathomable how ridiculous UConn's women's basketball is going to be next season when you bring in those 4. You still have Paige obviously come back from injury. You still got Fudd as well. She's been playing like UConn. As a fan of the South Carolina Gamecocks, I talked to one of my friends the other day about how I was really nervous about the game against Iowa when we played them in the Final Four, and nervously so because of Caitlin Clark. I'll be so nervous whenever South Carolina is on the opposite side of the court from UConn. Like they're going to be nasty. It's going to be in the most respectful way possible. They're going to be a nasty basketball team, and they're going to be an extremely tough out. They're going to be physical, and they're going to shoot the lights out of every building they walk into. That's going to be another team that's super exciting. Notre Dame, which did amazing things this year. They're adding more talent. They're adding it. They're bringing in Hannah, who you mentioned earlier. Notre Dame, like, there's just so much to love about women's college basketball heading into the future. Like, I literally cannot wait for next season.
It's only gonna get better, bro. You mentioned some names there. It is only gonna get better. Don't forget, you're a South Carolina fan. Malaysia Phil Wiley, my lord, bro. Malaysia Phil Wiley. When I'm on your show around this time next year, you're gonna be giving me that nod, like, yo.
Yes,
Malaysia
can't wait.
That name will ring so many bells. I promise you. Going back to UConn real quick. Let's not forget they were in the Final Four playing against South Carolina. Last year, right? The key is Paige. Paige and AZ gave us a little sample size of what they can do together. I can't lie. I just really hope and pray. For one, I pray that people don't forget about Paige, because Caitlin Clark became America's new basketball sweetheart. And
you can't forget about Paige.
Let us not forget about Paige, because she will come back with a vengeance. I get the sense that she don't really play that, but I really pray and hope that Paige can avoid future injuries, because she's had a couple now. So I'm hoping this doesn't become a recurring thing. the key for this might be Gino's last hurrah with Paige. I feel like Paige is the last samurai for him and for
Oh
UConn.
yeah.
And they've got to get a natty while she's there, bro. I mean, she was the face. Just a year ago, she was the face. The injury took her down. You know, Caitlin, Angel Reese, we've got some new faces now. I expect Paige to come back with a vengeance, and they need her to do that to get back on top.
100%. And just 3 other teams I want to talk about really quickly before we talk about the draft. NC State, UNC, and Maryland round out the top 10 in recruiting classes this year. And first of all, UNC is going to be a sneaky good basketball team next year. They're led by Deja Kelly, and she's fantastic. She averaged like 19 points a game, I think, this year. She was amazing. Maryland, we just saw Diamond Miller get drafted 2nd overall in the draft on Monday. Maryland's got a good team as well. Like this is the best way I can put it. You don't even have to have a fan. You don't have to have a team. Just turn on a game one day. Turn on a game and watch it from start to finish. We talk a lot about in football. We talk a lot in basketball about how you hear the stories all the time about how like these recruits coming out of high school shouldn't go to schools because of the coaches. And again, as I mentioned earlier, for women's basketball, I don't like that doesn't matter because they're going to be there for 4 years anyway. And a lot of these coaches are really, 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 really good coaches. Most of these coaches that are coaching right now in college, especially, played ball back in their heyday. Like, so they know what it takes. You're talking about Dawn Staley. You're talking about the head coach of Notre Dame. I can't pronounce the first name, but her last name is Ivy. She's Jaden Ivey's mother. She was amazing back in the day. She's a fantastic coach now. What she's done in Notre Dame this year, considering all that they went through, they're bringing in, again, we talked about earlier, turn on a women's, matter of fact, when South Carolina plays Notre Dame in a couple months in Paris, turn that game on. That is going to be you want to know everything that me and Martin love about women's college basketball. Go sit down and turn that game on and watch a masterful game that's going to be in Paris in a couple months. That I was super excited when I read that they're heading to Paris for that. That's going to be an amazing game. It's going to be an amazing opportunity to take the game over there to Paris. That's going to be a fantastic game.
I don't think I even heard about that. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
It's during the summer. Is that so?
It's during the summer. I don't remember the exact date, but it's in the summer.
I wonder if their incoming freshmen are able to play. Like if they're going to be available to.
I think so.
Probably, yeah, they probably will.
Probably.
I mean, that's fantastic. That's awesome.
That's going to be fantastic.
While we're on the subject, I'll just throw it out there real quick. As you know, Hannah, I do have the connection. We did the piece on her. I've told people about her for years too. Notre Dame. Hannah Hidalgo, Olivia Miles will be the best backcourt in women's college basketball.
Absolutely. 100%.
In the next few years, that will be the best backcourt in women's college basketball. If you thought that Notre Dame and Olivia Miles was dynamic, which they have been and they are, and she is. Olivia Miles, best passer in the country. She is like that. She is like that. Trust me. You have not seen anything yet until you see her running up and down with Hannah Hidalgo. I promise you, the entire vibe is about to change. If I were a betting man, I would say in the next 4 years, get me. I've already said my money's on Hannah. So in the next 4 years, I expect a natty to come down to South Bend. I'm giving it to you. I'm telling you, Hannah's coming.
I think they will. I think they will
do it for you.
Yeah, I sat down. It's crazy too. I sat down. I was watching the All-American games, and I sat down. And so, of course, like I've seen. You know, you've had conversations with Hannah on your on your pod and things like that, and you posted clips of her. So I sat down during the All-American, and I was gonna watch it anyway. I was like, I'm gonna watch Hannah. I cannot explain to you the sheer joy I felt like on the inside watching Hannah play basketball. Like I thoroughly enjoyed Notre Dame is going to be a team to watch. Notre Dame is a well-coached basketball team, and they're bringing in a bunch of talent. Like that is, I literally cannot overstate enough how excited I am for next season of college basketball for the women. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be utterly fantastic. Like to see, I can't wait. There's going to be so many. The beautiful thing about it for me is the unpredictability, right? You go into every season for the men, you usually know who's going to be ranked where, who's going to make the natty, like who's going to make the tournament, who's not going to make the tournament, who's going to have a good shot at the natty, who's not. Like you kind of have that same idea for the women going in until you sit down, you watch the games and you see a team like Louisville come out of nowhere, or you sit down and you watch the season unfold and you see a team like Iowa come out of nowhere, a team like Miami come out of nowhere, Virginia Tech going to be great next year too. I forgot to mention them. Like there's so many, again, you don't have to be a fan of a team. Just sit down and watch a game. and you're gonna enjoy it. Like you're gonna watch a game and be like, I can't not be a fan of this because it's amazing basketball. Let's switch gears. Let's talk about the draft. The draft was bittersweet for me. I obviously enjoy watching the draft. It's nice to see where all these girls are going to go. Unfortunately for me, as a Gamecock, as a fan of the South Carolina Gamecocks, though, the freshies were drafted as expected. Aaliyah Boston went number 1 overall to the Fever. Zaya Cook went number 10 to the Sparks. Bria Bill went number 12 to the Lynx. And Leticia Amihir went number 8 to the Dream. These 4 ladies, first of all, their college resume alone is astounding.
Yeah.
Like, as a collective, they were amazing in college. I think they'll be even more amazing on the next level. Which of these 4 do you think is in the best situation based on the team that drafted them on Monday?
I think Aaliyah Boston is in the best situation. She was the number 1 pick. Indiana really needed a premier player, especially I think a post player. I talked about this on my show. In the women's game, the post position, the bigs have always been prominent. Now, I don't want to say more prominent than guards, but the bigs have always been prominent in the women's game. And you look at the fact that I always look at the champion because that's the standard. You've got Asia Wilson. Now they've got Candace Parker, right? I mean, Las Vegas is built top to bottom across the board. But of course, the centerpiece is in Asia Wilson. And I think Aaliyah Boston is that kind of centerpiece that you build around and build off of. They need to play through her. They need to go to her right away. The offense needs to be through her. I don't know their roster that well off the top of my head, but I get the sense that she could be their best player right away. She's the number 1 pick. They need to market her. They need to. The Indiana Fever needed. I guess I'm thinking Tamika Catchings. Now she's she's the new Tamika Catchings, but Catch was the Indiana Fever, right? That face of the franchise. Now they have a new one who's again a big girl, and I think Aaliyah Boston is. I to what you said about them, I think they can. Almost all those players from South Carolina can kind of be the same players, if not better, at the next level. I think Aaliyah Boston can be very similar to what she was in college. I think she can be a 2010 girl, an 18-15 girl. She has that. She's physical, the touch, the feel. She's been working out with Tim Duncan. She knows what she's doing. And I think she can get to it right away.
Aaliyah's footwork, I think of all, and she does a lot of great things. I think if there's anything that's underrated about her game, it's her footwork. Like just how graceful she is down low. You hear that a lot when people talk about Hakeem Olajuwon, and like people say like if there's one thing that you listen to Kevin Garnett talk about all the time, like there's one thing he hated about guarding Hakeem when he was in the league, it was the footwork because he was just light on his feet, and Aaliyah's very light on her feet. She's going to be amazing. Destiny Henderson is there. They played ball last year together when they won the championship, so there's that familiarity there. This is the Fever. What I loved about the Fever last year, and I'm going to continue to love about them, is that they're a young basketball team, and they're just going out there and they're just playing ball like the way that we played ball when we were younger. Like they're just going out there and they're just having fun with it. Of course, they're trying to win games, but they're just going out there and they're just having fun with it. And they're all young and they're all growing together. Like the Indiana Fever almost kind of have a college basketball team kind of feel to them because they're so young and because everyone on the team is so selfless and everyone on the team wants to get better as a collective. And if there's anyone that knows how to do that out of this draft class, it's nobody better than Aaliyah Boston, because that's really what South Carolina is all about. And that is what Dawn Staley instills in all her players. It's the willingness to, of course, we want to be successful as a team, but we want to be successful as a team. Like your individual accolades will come if you're great, but your greatness along with her greatness and her greatness together makes the team great. That is something that Destiny Henderson, I thought, was bringing with her to Indiana last year. That's something I know for a fact Aaliyah Boston is bringing with her this year. Aaliyah Boston knows how to be the best player on the championship caliber team. She's been that for the last 4 years. She's bringing that with her into a very young, very exuberant basketball team, and I love it. I think, though, that Cook is in the best position, aside from Boston, just because she's going to L.A., they've got Chiney Ogwumike. They've got Nneka Ogwumike. Like that is a well-run organization out there. If I'm not mistaken, they just hired Kurt Miller to be their head coach for the season. He's an amazing head coach. He's coming out from Connecticut to go out there. He was just in the finals with Connecticut just last season against my Aces. Like he's a fantastic coach. I think she's going to fit in just fine out there in LA. But like all 4 of these ladies, 100%, I think, are going to be very successful. If there's one thing I love the most, though, it's that Bria Bill and Diamond Miller are going to be on the same basketball team next
Yeah,
season
that's
in
no, that's
Minnesota.
Minnesota
That
did
is
a nice job with that.
massive
Yeah,
for Minnesota.
Minnesota did a really nice
Huge.
job with that.
I
Absolutely.
love that. I love that for Miller. I love it for Beal, and I love it for Minnesota. Minnesota is going to be a nice team to watch with the both of them because they're both super talented.
Yeah, and going back to like the idea of your face of the franchise, who do we like? Everyone want even Maya Moore's retired. People still want her to come back.
Yeah.
Like we still can't believe that Maya Moore's retired. I still
Yeah.
can't believe it. And when
Yeah.
you think Minnesota Lynx, you still think Maya Moore.
Mhm.
And until you get someone who can kind of make you forget
Yeah.
that you're going to keep thinking of them. And I think Diamond Miller is the kind that'll step in and be that new face of the franchise and help you to forget in a healthy way.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
she's going to help bring new success and just new energy to the franchise. And like you said, I love that Bree Beal gets to be there and because they're both talented wings. I
Yeah.
think Bree Beal's going to be a really good pro. She's going to figure things out
100%.
quickly. So that's great for Minnesota. They a couple of these franchises that needed a new face, a new just core, a new foundation. They really got that in this
Mhm.
draft class for sure. And I think
And
Zion's going to be a great pro. I
oh, yeah.
do love I think Kurt Miller will let Zaya cook.
Oh,
I
yeah.
hope that he does, and I think that he will. And they should because she needs to shine in LA. People need to remember how crazy she is.
100%. And last but not least, of course, you go back to Leticia. She's in Atlanta. They obviously had Ryan. They drafted Ryan Howard #1 overall, and she had a fantastic season. She had one of the best rookie seasons, dare I say, ever in the history of the W. Just as far as what she was able to bring to the table. Now she's being paired with her. I love that duo also. Like I'm not just saying that because I'm a fan of South Carolina, and it all sounds like for these 4 teams. There's not, like any of the. We knew, like you said, we knew Aaliyah Boston was going to go #1 overall to Indiana. But the other 3 teams, they got these other 3 ladies. Like it's not a loss. These are anyone that comes through. As the same can be said for like on the men's side. You look at a team like Duke, you look at a team like Kentucky or Kansas, right? Anyone that comes out of South Carolina, anyone that comes out of LSU, I think in the next couple of years, now that Kim Mulkey's there, anyone that comes out of Notre Dame over the next couple of years, now that Ivy's there, like anyone that comes out of Virginia Tech and Maryland, like they're going to be pro ready day one. All 4 of these ladies are going to be pro ready day one, and they're going to be exciting to watch. And again, you talk about the dream, a very young team. They're putting it all together. They're starting it from the ground up. Renee Montgomery, she's a former player for the Dream. She's now in the front office, so she's kind of moving these things around. She's got a unique perspective as someone that's making some of these decisions, given that she was a player, so she knows what it's like and she knows kind of what to look for to kind of build a team. All 4 of these ladies, I think, are going to be successful. I do love her going to the Dream, though. I think that's going to be a nice pairing again. I know it sounds crazy, but I think it's going to be a nice pairing again. Her and Ryan Howard, I think, is going to be fantastic
Yeah, I
down
love
there
that.
in
That
Atlanta.
length. When you think about the length of
Yeah.
that, just even with those 2 players, but
Mhm.
that's a great foundation. That was a good pick for them.
So let's talk about Dallas. And there's kind of a lot to unpack with Dallas, both within the draft, but also some reactions to the draft that Dallas had. Number 1, first and foremost, their first person off the board, Maddie Siegrist from Villanova, who was absolutely phenomenal this season. She's out there. The Mystics drafted Stephanie Soares, whose story to the draft is just incredible when you think about all the things she had to overcome in her collegiate career. And Dallas traded a first-round pick and a future first and a future second to get her. So they have her as well. They turn around, they drafted Lou Lopez and Sanaco with the 5th pick. They've got Abby Myers, they've got Ashley Jones, they've got Paige Robertson. They went all in. They were super duper aggressive. They had 5 picks coming into the draft. Like I said, they walked away with 6 with the addition of Stephanie Soares via trade. On the draft class specifically, what do you love the most about these 6 ladies heading down to Dallas to be with Enrique and figure things out down there?
You just said it. I love that they get some more offensive weapons around Enrique. Maddie Siegrist, I've talked to several coaches, college coaches about her and just what they feel like she'll be as a pro. Because I was still trying to think through it.
Sure.
But the more I think about her game and what she does, she's a worker, and
Oh, yeah.
workers do well, especially
Mhm.
on the women. Workers can become stars.
Oh, yeah.
Just because she's not super athletic and like the talent isn't like jumping off the page to you. She's going to do the little. What you know about players like her, she's going to start by doing the little things.
Yep.
She'll do whatever it takes. And by the way, she can do it all. She can put it on the floor. She can shoot it. She can make open shots. She can make contested shots. She can make tough shots, off balance shots. She makes awkward shots. Like she can put the ball in the basket in a lot of different ways. She's versatile with her size. You can slot her in different ways. She's just a weapon. She's a weapon, and she's going to do the little things. She's not just going to look to get her offense and be a top 5 pick. Like she's not there. She's a worker. She's gonna mesh in and then get hers when her number is called and when she gets opportunities. I love the Sanako pick. I love the girl out of UConn. She was a transfer. She ended up scoring 2,000 points. She can put the ball in the basket. We've seen a theme here. Like they picked up girls who can shoot it, who can make different things happen, and who can score it. And I know there's some controversy around like their roster, like the number of players they have now. I guess they have to let some people go and stuff. But
they do have to let a couple people
they
go.
Got to figure some things out.
They've had a bunch of picks for the past couple years.
Yeah,
they've had a bunch of picks for the last couple of years, so that comes with it. The rosters are a little bit smaller than the WNBA, so they've got to make some decisions. But
listen,
that's a good problem to have.
Not a bad problem to have. That's a good problem to have. So they've got to figure it out. But I'd rather be figuring that out with all these pieces and weapons and picks. And again, you already have you have a superstar, like one of the top players in the league. So she deserves, again, it may not be like a super team. It may not be what the Liberty did. You may not be able to do that. But at least you're bringing in some good young weapons that can shoot it, that can do different things. And I think that's the best thing you can do around a player like Arike, other than like, again, bringing in other star talent to just load up and create an all-out super team.
One of the things that we saw a lot over the course of the tournament with Caitlin Clark was people were comparing her to Steph Curry because of how can you not, right? And you were talking about how like there's good shots and there's bad shots, but like the shots that Caitlin Clark takes are good shots for her, but they might be terrible shots for other people. When I look at this Dallas Wings roster, that's what they have. They have, like you said, a bunch of ladies that can put it in the basket a number of ways, right? When I think about someone in the WNBA who takes a bunch of bad shots, but they're great shots for her, it's Arike. Like what she does. That is what she does. Like she is an amazing shot maker. Like you will look at anyone else in the league not named Arike put up some of the shots she takes, and you'd be like, "There's no way you're shooting that." But she puts it up, and you have no doubt that they're going in. Right? You pair her with someone like Maddie Siegrist, who does the exact same thing. You pair her with someone like Sanako, who is she's so aggressive and she's long and she can put the ball in the basket. Like that is what we are talking about. It's the ability to put the ball in the basket. One of the things you and I talk about a lot when it comes to this game is that, and this is no shot at the men, but women's basketball is so much more skill driven, right? Because you're not just seeing blow-bys all the time. You're not looking at alley-oops and dunks and all this other stuff. Like there's a lot more skill that goes into it because a lot of these ladies are, except for the bigs, like they're all kind of the same size if you really think about it. Like they're all relatively the same size and they all relatively have the same build. Now there's anomalies, of course. There's some that are obviously clearly not, like a Brittany Griner and like a Asia Wilson and like a Breonna Stewart, Jonquil Jones, players like that. There are other players that are maybe not as small but are still just as gifted, like a Candace Parker, or players like that. The Dallas Wings have a bunch of go-getters on their roster right now who are not afraid of the moment, who don't back down in the moment, and who can put the ball in the basket. I think they're going, I know they're going to be an exciting team to watch because they all complement Arike so well, like so well, to the point now where Arike doesn't need the ball in her hands now to be effective, which is crazy, which is scary, because when she doesn't have the ball in her hands and she's moving off the ball, that's when she's most effective. When she's moving off those screens and moving off those motions, moving off those picks and getting to that, finding that open space and then hitting those shots. That's what she's the best at. This team is going to be moving the ball around a lot. If you want to see a bunch of fundamental passes and just to pop you a little bit, some skip passes across the court, look no further than the Dallas Wings. There's going to be a lot of that because they're going to move around. They're going to find the best shot. And because all these ladies on the rosters can hit those shots, There's no one on the roster that's going to have the ball in their hands at any point in time, and you're going to be worried about whether or not it's a good shot or a bad shot. Should this person be taking the shot or not? This was super aggressive. Now, like you said, they do have some decisions to make because they got a little bit over on the roster, so they've got to make some cuts. But that's a good problem to have. That's a good problem to have. Addition by subtraction, maybe. It's a
Yeah.
great problem to have for Dallas,
Yeah,
I think.
they drafted Abby Myers out of Maryland too. She was one of the better shooters in the draft. And the girl they got from Iowa State, Ashley Johns or Jones, I think it was.
Ashley
She's
Jones,
kind of like
yep.
a guard for she can shoot it too. Every girl
Mhm.
they drafted can shoot it.
All of them can shoot it. You put that with one of the better shooters in the league today, and you've got a very scary sight defensively if you can't guard the perimeter. So we kind of mentioned Diamond Miller, and we've mentioned Bria Bill. Obviously, we mentioned the Fever landing Aaliyah Boston. We've obviously talked about the Mavericks or I'm sorry, not the Mavericks, the Wings a little bit now here. If you had to, I hate doing this because I think in most instances, you can't always tell who winners and losers are until the season plays out and at least until a
Yeah.
couple years down the line. But if you had to initial reaction, the team that you think won the draft or at least walked away with a very clear direction for the future that looks extremely bright, who would you say that team is?
I feel like Dallas. I looked at Dallas as really just making the biggest splash. The amount of quality players that they came away with, I can't help but name them as a big winner. I'll name another winner. I think the Sparks are a winner getting Zaya
Oh,
Cook.
yeah.
That is just a win.
Oh.
Whoever picked up Zaya, she could have gone earlier. Listen,
She could have. That's a first round talent, which makes it even better.
what if Dallas picked her up and teamed her up with Enrique? Like, what if that was their thing? Like that would be fine. What if Atlanta picked her up at 6 to pair her with Ryan Howard? Like, I could have seen that. I wouldn't have been mad at that. But the Sparks are a winner getting Zaya. I'll give you a sleeper winner. Jordan Horston. I don't think people know how special she really could be. Number 9 to Seattle, Jordan Horston. A lot of these girls were girls that I covered in the McDonald's All-American game. Diamond Miller, Zaya Cook, Horston was there. Horston in those practices and those games, she was one of the better players. And I always kept my eye on her. She's different, She could be like a Ryan Howard, I feel. And I think Seattle, especially having lost Sue Bird and Stewie, they need a new identity. I love Jewel Lloyd. She's one of my favorite players. But I'm glad they have a talent like Jordan Horston coming in, who I think can become a special talent. So I think Seattle was kind of a winner under the radar.
I agree with you. I do think the Seattle I was always going to keep a close eye to because I think they were in a very interesting position because they had lost, like you mentioned, they lost Sue Bird to retirement. Stewie obviously went to New York to go to Liberty. So there was a couple they were going to be they were going to have to figure some things out, and I'm glad that they were able to figure some things out. I can't believe I forgot to mention this, but I think the Dream, I don't know if they're the biggest winner, but they're definitely on my list of winners. Not only did they have Leticia, like we mentioned earlier, they also got Haley Jones. And Haley Jones is
she's tough, yo. She's tough.
She's again, you want to talk about being great or being nice. Like she's a nice basketball player. She is amazing. And I think the three of them together, Howard, Jones, and Leticia, I think they're going to be amazing. It's hard to pick a loser. Like that's the beautiful thing about this is I think that this draft class I think was unexpectedly deep. I don't think there was a lot of really eyes on the draft after the first round and of course the freshies. Like I think that was really it. Is who's going in the first 12 and then where all 4 freshies going to go. But they did a fantastic job. I think every team that had a pick did wonderful. I love that the Connecticut Sun picked up Alexis Morris.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
I love that. In fact, I think the Sun might be the winners of the draft just for that.
Well,
because
that's
I think
that was a great pick for them.
Yeah, and again, Alexis Morris is another one of those players, just like some of these other ones that kind of fell into the second round that really could have been. She really could have gone in the first. Yeah. And so for her to be available for the Connecticut Sun, again, in a similar situation with where the Storm are, where they're kind of trying to figure things out now that John Cole Jones has left to go to the Liberty, they kind of got to figure out a new identity. I love that they have Alexis Morris now. That is a phenomenal basketball team. Obviously, we saw them in the finals just last season. They've got Dejanay Carrington, who I think is one of the best bench players in the league, and she can obviously, and we've seen that. Just her ability not just to come off the bench and be an offensive spark plug with this, which is something that a lot of bench players are expected to do, but she's a defensive spark plug as well. Like her, I'm not an advanced stats guy at all, but her defensive box plus minus down the stretch of the season, especially in the playoffs, was spectacular. Like that team all around is always going to be a tough team. They're going to have to figure some things out, but you talk about that toughness, that identity. Alexis Morris plays a big part in reestablishing the identity of the Connecticut Sun and keeping them as one of the tougher teams to play against, not just in the East, but in the entire league. That I love that pick for them. I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, she could be like an
At
Erica
22,
Wheeler.
that's a diamond in the
all-out
rough.
steal. That's an all-out
Absolutely.
steal. And you also have to give her the green light and let her hoop, because she's a real hooper. She could be fine in the pros, but you got to kind of give her the ball and give her some lead, because like she's the real deal, yo. She can really go.
Yeah.
And I could see her being like an Erica Wheeler who went, I think she went second or third round. She went late. She ended up she was the All-Star Game MVP in 2018 or 2019. So I could see her being similar to that.
So let's talk about this. It wasn't on the original sheet that I gave you, but I just want to talk about this because we've seen obviously Candace Parker come to the Aces. We saw obviously Jonquel Jones and Brianna Stewart. They went out to New York to go play with Sabrina Ionescu in the Liberty, right? Do you think this is going to be the new trend in the WNBA moving forward? Do you think we're going to see more moves like this where some of the big time players are going to kind of gravitate to certain markets, and we get kind of like what we see in the NBA, but it'll be a little bit more glaring just because there's less teams? We'll see certain players gravitate to certain markets to try to win championships and create these potentially really all-time series if those two teams end up meeting up for it all at the end of the season.
Yeah, I think it is going to happen. I think it's happening now. And I think a big reason is because a lot of these girls coming out of college who played together or who are friends and stuff. And you make a good point. There's only so many WNBA teams anyway.
Yeah.
And so
there's only 12.
There's only 12. So
it'll be 14, and I think in 2 or 3 years they're looking to add on 2 more, which will be amazing. Can't wait for that as well. But there's only 12 right now.
I think like the Candace Parker thing is its own thing because she's got championships already. She's established. She had a past. She could do. She could make that move. It's not like she's in her prime either. I mean, that was fine. The Stewie thing is a little more spicy because she's considered like one of the top players in the league right now. It's not like she teamed up with other top players, but she went to a really good established team in the Liberty, and Jonquel Jones is going there too, one of the top bigs in the league. So of course the Liberty give you more. And Aces are like kind of super team vibes too, but the way the Liberty is just a little different because again, Stewie's like at the top of the league, at the top of her game. She's in her close to her prime right now. And she's going to a team that it's not like a team that won or that, I mean, the Liberty needed that. I mean, they needed star power. They really could have used someone like that. But I mean, adding her to Sabrina, that Nigel Laney, and again, you bring in Jonquel
Dee Richards. That's
it's just
what Johannes. What a basketball team that is in Liberty.
It's nuts what they did this offseason.
Yeah,
literally, it might be one of the best sports off seasons in history, like in sports
100%.
history. The Liberty just put together one of the best off seasons in sports history, bro. They win the title. People better start talking about that because what they did this offseason, my mind is still blown.
100%. And that championship window,
I just think those two situations are, again, they're different, but I think they're going to inspire people to do through free agency or through, again, like there's only so many teams, so you can kind of start making things happen, and I think players are going to get more power. It's only going to be good for the league. They're going to see the results from these, super teams being around. They're going to see the numbers this upcoming season. So it should be encouraged from all levels.
And I just want to spin the block on this narrative one last time. And I love KD. You know how much I love KD. I think KD is fantastic, right? But the narrative that existed that Candace Parker going to the Aces was like KD going to the Warriors is just so unbased in any type of truth, like whatsoever. Like we're talking about Candace Parker, who had won an MVP and 2 championships before even making the move. Like it's just now as an Aces fan, I love it.
Right.
Can't wait to see what it looks like. And I think it's going to be amazing, right? I think for a couple reasons, right? Asia Wilson's been on record several times as saying that Candace Parker is one of her favorite players growing up. Now she gets to play with Candace Parker. I think that's amazing. When you look at the Aces roster, and I'm just gonna push my pro Aces propaganda here because I wouldn't be a fan of the team if I didn't do it. There's not many rosters in the league better than the Aces roster, if we're just being 100% honest. You've got Asia Wilson, who is the best player in the league. I mean, we can just call a spade a spade. She's proven it over the past couple seasons. I know Brianna Stewart's the 1B to her 1A, right? Yeah. Like this is going to be like this debate that we're going to have over Asia Wilson and Brianna Stewart's going to exist for the next couple seasons because they're both, like you said about Brianna, at the top of their game right now. They're both firmly in their prime. You've got Kelsey Plum. You've got Chelsea Gray. You have so much talent on this roster. Like you've got Bell. They just this is you got Kia Stokes, who I think is going to have an amazing season this season.
Jackie Young.
You've got Jackie Young, who is I cannot explain to you how much I enjoy watching Jackie Young play basketball for the Las Vegas Aces. Like this is a roster that can compete with anybody. And I know we did this with the Lakers and the Nets. Like we do this when these super teams kind of get together. I know everyone is looking at an Aces Liberty Finals matchup. I know we are, and it makes sense, right? Yeah. Like the Liberty have their championship window wasn't open yet because they weren't quite there yet. They've blown the doors off of the championship. They're wide. It's wide open, and it is go time. And Sabrina Ionescu, she recognizes that, and she's mentions that a couple times in some of the interviews that she's done about like we're gonna go out there, we're gonna make sure that we're all healthy, we're gonna build that chemistry, we're gonna get on the floor together, we're gonna win some basketball games, we're gonna compete for a championship. The New York Liberty, I think, very well may be in the WNBA Finals this season because they're all there. Like Jonquel Jones is also in her prime. She just won MVP in the bubble. They're all it's crazy. It's crazy
what just went down. And I feel like right now, there's no guarantees. Nothing is promised. We know that. But this is as close to a guarantee as it was Warriors Cavs for those like 27
for those 4 years
when they went to the finals.
Yeah.
Again, bro, it's the WNBA. There's only so many teams. There's not that much to look at and to consider. Yeah. There's clearly two. You said there's not many rosters. There are two rosters better than head and shoulders. Mm-hmm. Way better than everyone else. Yeah. The Aces and Liberty, they will probably be in the finals. Like
now you still got
the WNBA, it gets really simple. When you see
it does.
It's like okay.
Oh, it does. It gets super simple. That's the thing I love about it is it gets super simple, but then you still have your teams like the Storm, who probably won't be this season, but I don't know because they've got a good culture. But up until at the end of last season, they were great. The Mercury, they're getting BG back. I know they're going to be coming back with a reckoning. You still got the Mystics, who I think, look, it's been tough for the Mystics since they won the chip, but a lot of that has to do with Elena Del Don. She's been dealing with a couple injuries. She hasn't been available. But, and I said this last season to a couple of my friends, and I think I even said it to you. Shakira Austin is the real deal. And she is going to flourish in Washington as soon as this season. Like we saw flashes of that last season with her. We saw flashes of it, especially in the playoffs. I think she takes that next step this season. You've got Natasha Cloud, who led the league in assists last year. You've got obviously, like I said, Elena Del Don. Like that's a great roster out there in Washington. Now they don't have again like that. The shine and the allure of the championship has dimmed a little bit, but they're still a tough out.
Yeah,
and that's still a fantastic basketball team. I mentioned the Sun earlier. They picked up Alexis Morris in the draft. I think they'll still be a force to be reckoned with because they're a tough basketball team. They're obviously they're gonna have to figure out a way to kind of fill in the gap that is Jonquel Jones and what she brings to the table, not just on the floor but off the floor as a leader. Of course, you're talking about what she does on the floor offensively and defensively, but as a leader, vocally, emotionally, that's gonna be stuff that they're gonna have to try to fill. The size, both figuratively and literally, down low. So many good basketball teams. But like you said, there's only 12 of them. And it becomes very easy to see who the top dogs are. And it just works. And it just so happens that it works out for us fans that one of the top dogs in the West and one of the top dogs in the East. A lot of times in the NBA, you get all the top dogs in one conference and it becomes lopsided. We don't have that. And I love it. There's a clear favorite in the West. There's a clear favorite in the East. And like you said, there's no guarantees, but barring injuries, barring anything crazy, We're looking at Aces Liberty in a finals matchup, and each of the last two finals matchups has been some of the best we've seen ever. That one will be the best we've seen ever, 100%. No question about it. That matchup down low, that matchup on the perimeter
We
is
need that.
going to be amazing. We need it.
We need that.
We need it. We need it. You've got Jonquil Jones and Brianna Stewart on one side. You've got Asia Wilson and Candace Parker on the other side. You've got Sabrina Ionescu on one side with Dee Dee Richards and Marinas Johannes. You've got Kelsey Plum and Jackie Young and Chelsea Gray on the other side. Like, that is a matchup of all matchups. That is nasty work, bro.
WrestleMania, dog. It's nuts.
100%. Oh, that's WrestleMania on steroid. That's amazing. That's going to be a match worth watching. I told you, and I mean it. I'm making my way to Barclays this season.
Oh, I was just about to tell you, when Vegas, I'm going to the Aces game.
I'm taking my butt up there to Barclays this season.
I need to see it. Listen,
I gotta see it.
For some reason, we don't get it in the finals. I
gotta be able to say I saw it.
We can see
it. Gotta see it. It's an amazing. I know I've said it 50 times, and I'm sure you guys are sick of me saying I don't care. The game of women's basketball is amazing. And I think the beautiful thing about it is we're shifting now almost immediately from what we saw with college to the WNBA. And I think the momentum that we've seen, like you were mentioning earlier, with the viewership going up by skyrocketing, with the interactions on social media, with the commentary, all of it's going to transition straight into the WNBA season, because a lot of fans are going to be looking at the freshies. They're going to be looking for Alexis Morris. They're going to be looking for a lot of these teams. And of course, they're going to be looking for the Aces and Liberty.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Really wanted, the WNBA, they're in a great position. The draft was like the most viewed draft. You saw that, over 10 million views in the draft. That's a good start.
The most viewed draft in 20 years, if not ever, I think. And the league's only been around for 26 seasons. So
this is the most momentum they've ever had coming out of college in this landscape in terms of, again, social media, NIL, the personalities, the landscape of things. Women's basketball is booming. This is the time for the WNBA to capitalize. This has to be the biggest season, and they have to do things to ensure that, because as you said, people are just naturally a little more excited on a Tuesday night college basketball. They see a women's game. That energy is just different. With the college energy, even on the men's side. I mean, people argue college versus NBA because college is just gives you more passion and more desire. Because again, the loyalty to the program and the school and stuff like that, those dynamics. But on the women's side, the WNBA has to be able to capitalize, because the talent has never been more spicy and the attention has never been more great. So they have to be able to capitalize, and it has to start this summer.
And you love to see it. Like, you love to see it literally. You love to see it just all play out. You look at the WNBA, and again, like, these fandoms, there's only 12 teams, but all the fandoms are so impactful. Like, and we're all so invested. Like, like I said, I can go watch the Fever and the Dream play basketball and be invested as if I'm watching the Aces and the Liberty play basketball. That is what the WNBA has right now. And I think as we continue to see so many more of these ladies come out of college, the Angel Reeses of the world, the Caitlin Clarks of the world, when Paige comes out, when
think
about
that, bro.
When Jada Curry comes out, like, it's gonna just get that much better.
Think about that. Think about the names you're saying and all the other names that are out there that are coming, bro. When Angel Reese gets to the WNBA, she could have gone. She's not thinking about it. She's not even thinking about it yet. She's gonna have the time of her life. Technically, she's a sophomore, I think. The COVID year and all that.
She's a sophomore. Yep.
She's about to have the time of her life in college. She's making money. She might get another net. She's already won a natty.
She's already valued at $1.3 million in NIL.
So think about it, bro. When these girls, Paige is a phenomenon. She's a worldwide phenomenon already at UConn.
Yep.
There has to be a momentum transfer. Think about when all the names you said, they're not even there yet. They're still in college, and they're phenoms.
And there's still so many more that are going to come as the years continue.
Bro, the league needs to be ready. They better be ready, bro. I'm telling you, because these girls are bigger than what they've been used to, and the talent is spicier than what they've been used to, and it needs to be marketed and nurtured the right way. They have to be ready, bro.
Like I said, I can't wait. I'm so very excited. The WNBA season kicks off May 19th, or not kicks off, tips off May 19th, which is a little over a month away. So look, you might not like it, but guess what? We're not doing an NFL offseason series this year. We're talking WNBA basketball this year. Just have to. There's no NFL offseason series. Well, that's not true. It'll be written this year. We're still working out the kinks on that. But when you tune into this show every week during the summer, we're talking WNBA basketball.
Let's
I'm
go,
wearing the same
man.
orange hoodie. It's going to be amazing. I can't overstate it enough. Like when you look at the landscape of the WNBA and the season, this is shaping up to be the greatest season ever.
Yeah.
Like ever. You've got the Commissioner's Cup, which is a new thing. Obviously, it started last year that gets people super invested even in the regular season. You've got the playoffs. I love the playoff format. I don't know when it's going to happen, but mark my words. At some point eventually, we're going to get 7-game series in the WNBA.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so
and
too.
we're already sitting at 5.
Yeah.
So when we get to 7,
yeah, no, that is when things will get even crazier. You're right. Yeah.
When we get to 7, because for those of us that know, for most sports, the 7-game series format is 2-2-1-1-1, right? When we get to 7-game series, and we're talking game 7 against some of this talent,
yeah,
with some of these ladies on the floor, with all eyes on them, like again, like you look at college. So one of the things that people always say, right, is no one wants to watch. Well, ESPN owns the rights to the women's college tournament, and they put all eyes on these ladies.
Yeah.
And we came out in droves to see them, not even just at home. Like the ticket sales this season were through the roof. Iowa had to stop pre-selling season tickets because they're all sold out because they don't have enough anymore. That is where we're at. The state of women's basketball is this. If you don't like it, you suck because it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. Let's call a spade here. The NBA, no one cares about it until this time of year. The WNBA is the most exciting sport of the summer. It is. It's going to continue to be that way. Also, shout out to the WNBA for they're opening up. They're going to start chartering some flights for certain games for teams that have back-to-backs. That's a thing that a lot of players were talking about last season. That's huge. All postseason teams will have their flights chartered, but then if you have a back-to-back, your flight will be chartered. That's huge. As the game continues to grow, as the league continues to grow, not just with teams, but as they start opening up roster spots, because we talk about this all the time. The WNBA is super competitive within its teams because there's only so many roster spots available as well. That's another part of it as well. There's not a G League, there's no G League affiliation like there is in the NBA. Like it is, you're on the roster or you're not. Yeah. And all these ladies, they show up to work every day and they work their hardest to make a roster, and they play every game like it's their last. Even the best of the best, they play every game like it's their last. That is why you love women's basketball. If you don't like women's basketball, you're not a real basketball fan. You're a garbage human being. I don't say that often. That just is what it is. What does this shirt say? It says protect our queens. Like that's what it is. That's what it is. I don't know what else to tell you. I'm sorry that I'm getting so amped up. This is not like me. It is, but still, like that's just what it is. You look. All right, don't take my word for it. Look, just one day, just sit down over the course of the summer, just turn on ESPN in the middle of the afternoon on any day. That's the beautiful thing too. On any day, Sunday through Saturday, turn on a game, just sit down, put your legs up and watch, and come back. I've seen the light. That's all you got to do. That's all. It's amazing.
Some people convert. It happens to some people, and they realize, like, this is better than I thought or that I gave credit for. And some people have to come to have a come to Jesus moment and admit. I mean, you may not want to admit it, but it just becomes true if you sit there. Because some people watch and then they come back and reaffirm. They say, no, it's really just not for me. It's okay. Well, you don't like basketball that much. Like, however much you think you like basketball, if you think
you're not a real fan, bro. You're not a fan.
Just make sure you're not out here acting like you're a real basketball fan. That's all I ask. Like you don't have to watch every women's basketball game. You don't even have to have a favorite team or favorite player. It doesn't have to be that. All I'm asking for, or we're asking for, is the respect that it deserves. As long as you can sit, as long as you tell me if you sit down and you watch it and you've concluded, you decided that you just can't sit through it. It's just that boring. It's that you just can't do it. Okay, guess what? Let's make sure you know what you are and what you're not. You're
not a real fan, bro.
You're not a real.
You're not a fan of the game. Because let's be
you
honest.
You don't really love basketball. Let's say
you
don't really love basketball.
You don't.
Okay?
You like it. It's a cool thing to watch on the side.
You can be an NBA fan and not love basketball. You get what I'm saying? You see what
we're basketball fans on this side. I'm gonna put it to you this way.
I'm saying who's better and who's not. It's not about who's better. I'm just some people.
Here's the deal, right? Here's the deal, right? And I love this argument because it's the most ignorant of them all. Well, maybe if they lowered the rim 2 feet. Look, dunking. If your argument is dunking, I want you to sit down, watch an NBA game, and count the number of dunks. There's not that many dunks over the course of an NBA game. There's not. You'll be lucky to see 10 in a game. If that, there's not that many. So the dunking is not why you like basketball. Here's the deal. Don't turn on a game with players you've never heard of. Don't watch Asia Wilson. Don't watch Breonna Stewart. Go watch the Dream and the Fever play basketball this season. Go watch the Dream and the Lynx play basketball this season. No shots at these clubs because they're great and I love all of them. But if you really don't like women's basketball, if you think women's basketball is so insufferable, go watch two teams play when you don't even know the names on the roster, when they're unrecognizable to you, because then you're not looking for names and numbers. You're just watching basketball. Like Martin said, if you watch a game of WNBA basketball, or you watch back a game of college women's basketball from this year, and you come back and you say, don't really do it for me. Okay. When we start talking hoops over the course of the summer, when we get into these NBA circles, I don't want to see you, bro. I don't want to see you because you're not a fan of basketball.
Don't talk basketball with me. Yeah. Don't talk basketball.
Yeah. It's like you
don't have to, but then like when we talk basketball, I can't really talk, you've shown your colors. You've shown your colors. Yeah. I don't really need
your
to talk
basketball card will be revoked if you come. You can't in your right mind watch a game of WNBA basketball and say, this is not for me. You can't. You just can't. It's too
by the way,
good.
First of all, girls have been dunking already in 10 on 10 rims, so that's another reason why that
we've seen it.
They're already dunking. So I don't know what. So what's the other thing is, and I said this on a comment on a post recently. Even if they did lower the rims, people would still find reasons to not like.
Yeah, you're still going to find reasons.
That wouldn't be enough. People say that that's what it is, but even then. They would still be talking about.
It's just the lowest hanging fruit. Ooh, they don't dunk. So what?
So I don't even want to.
So what?
It comes down to, do you love basketball or not? Do you really love basketball or not? And if you don't, it's fine. Just say that you're an NBA fan. Don't say that you're a basketball fan.
And when you see me, Martin, pull up to your city, sit in front row in an arena, watching WNBA basketball, having the time of our lives, don't say nothing. Don't. Be the bystander that you are. Be the bystander that you are. Because that's what you are. You're a bystander. Anyway, I'm off my soapbox. Women's basketball is fantastic. There will be a bunch of women's basketball on this show over the course of the summer. If you don't like it, I really don't know what to tell you. You can subscribe to the network and watch stuff about sports. You can watch The Divide live. You can listen to it on the Fox Sports The Game every Friday. You can watch High Spots podcast. You can listen to JT and the Don. You can do all that. But if you don't like women's basketball, I guess you're just not going to listen to my show over the course of the summer, because that's all we talk about on this side. Well, we'll talk about the NBA playoffs, but we're also only going to be talking about WNBA basketball over the course of the summer. So if you don't like that, pal, I don't know what to tell you. Go find something else to do for your summer. See you in the fall for football, I guess, you Neanderthal. Anyway, Martin, let everybody know where they can find you and all your lovely women's basketball content over the next couple months.
You can find me on YouTube. Basketball Society on YouTube. That is the channel. We have the Basketball Society podcast. Protect Our Queens is our women's basketball playlist. We've got breakdowns and interviews and all kinds of great women's basketball content you enjoy. You can find me on Instagram, martin.soaries, my first and last name. And on Twitter, my handle's right there, @marsoaries.
It's always a pleasure. You're going to see a lot of Martin over the course of the summer.
I look forward to it, man. I look forward to it. It's going to get spicy. It's going to be a hot summer.
It's going to be a bunch of literally. It's going to get hot. It's going to get hot. Now, I don't think we've ever got Martin to the point of argument, but we might have some arguments on here. But you know what? It's okay.
I'm up for it. I still got some juice in me.
Yeah. Look. The last thing I'll say is this: if you don't like women's basketball, I've already said it, but I'm saying it again. If you don't like women's basketball, you're just not a real fan. You don't love basketball like you say you do. You just don't. That's literally how life works. If you don't like women's basketball, you don't love basketball. I could watch midgets play basketball and be entertained. Like, that's because I love basketball. Like, if you don't like women's basketball, you don't love basketball. That's what you say you do. And I don't want to see you in Twitter spaces. I don't want to see you in Twitter comments. Speaking of, real quick, Perico, did you see the clip on Twitter of Enrique absolutely grilling people at the on the court? Like, if you don't like basketball, that's what you're going to end up, because you can't beat none of these players. You can't.
Yeah.
So let's just cut straight to the chase. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. I think I'm so amped for this season. Like, not even as an Aces fan because we're coming off a championship. As a fan of the sport, there's something for everybody, right? Like, for the casual fan, the beauty of the Liberty and the Aces being like kind of the mecca of women's basketball is that, number one, it's Vegas and New York, two of the biggest media outlets in the world, at least in the country for sure.
Right.
But also, like, if you're a casual fan, these are all names that you know, that you've seen, that you've heard of. Breonna Stewart, John Cole Jones. Like, these are all names that you know, that you've seen of because of their own personal successes. So you got that going for you. If you're a diehard fan like Martin or myself, like I said, you'll turn on anything and you'll love it, right? If you're just getting introduced, again, you've got the Aces and the Liberty. If you have if you're a fan of a team and your team's doing well or your team's rebuilt, like, the WNBA has something for everybody. And this summer is going to be amazing. Like I said, if you see me and Martin pull up to your city, sit in front with a game, and you see us having the time of our lives, don't judge. All right. Don't take pictures to talk about us in your group chats. All right. Just accept that you don't love basketball as much as you say that you do, and carry on about your life.
Keep it moving.
After you do that, you come back to YouTube and you subscribe to the Give Us a Shot network, so you can see more Go Talker Marcus, so you can tune into stuff about sports, so you can catch The Divide every Friday on Fox Sports The Gambler, so you can tune into JT and the Don, and so you can listen to High Spot Podcast. Like I said, there's 6 shows here. If you don't want to listen to me all summer, you got 5 other options. But guess what? Every time I'm on that show, what I'm going to do? I'm talking about women's basketball. That's what I do. It's all gravy, bro. It's all gravy. It is what it is. Thank you, Martin. It's always a pleasure. We're going to see Martin so much over the course of the summer. Can't wait for that. And to all you guys out there, you guys stay safe. You guys enjoy your weekend. If you haven't already, check out all the content that's been dropped by the network over the course of the week, and even tomorrow as well. We'll see you guys next week for some NBA playoff talk. Stay groovy, stay smooth, subscribe to the network, and as always, you guys enjoy the rest of your lives.